Shalom, welcome to Power Up. We are pleased to present a discussion with Moray Tony, a teaching elder with over 3 decades of experience leading a Texas congregation and a disciple of Yeshua. Joining him are 2 of his students. This session will explore scriptural insights, address challenging questions, and provide uplifting encouragement. Please note, this discussion will focus on broad concepts and inspirational applications of Scripture rather than detailed exegesis. We are led to encourage growth in believers of Yah, spiritually empowered through action, and be a place of upbuilding to get powered up in the Most High.
Shalom and welcome. Today's teaching is brought to you by a young man who is a student in the Word. He will be bringing his teaching in the heart of a student, not a teacher, but someone who is learning to walk in the ways of Yahweh through the example of Messiah. We value the growth and encouragement to all, especially those who are learning to discern truth in a world full of noise. In this teaching titled Distractions, Entertainment, Smartphones, and Myself, Let's Stay Focused, he shares what he is learning about the dangers of distraction in our daily lives and how we can realign our focus back to the Father. May his desire to grow and remain focused encourage you to do the same as we continue walking together on the narrow path.
Shalom, shalom. All praises and glory to Avinu Yah, our Father Yah, in the name of his Son, Yeshua HaMashiach. It is a privilege to come before you today as I bring forth some encouragement with using the Word of Yah. And just to echo the introduction, I'm not a teacher. I'm just a student sharing notes. And today, what's been put on my heart, I wanted to bring something for the community, for all those who may have certain struggles in their life. You know, we all have something. We all have some type of device. We have something that's there that we need to try our best to let go. Things that can be a stumbling block for us in the walk or just in our everyday life, you know. And as you can see from the title, those things can be distractions. You know, we all have goals. We all have things that we want to achieve in life. And, you know, those things can be difficult when we find ourselves being distracted by things that are going on around us, you know. And it happens. But I just wanted to bring something here today, hopefully that it can help those who may need some encouragement when it comes to distractions. You know, I have 3 categories, possibly 4, but 3 categories that I wanted to touch on, which is entertainment, smartphones, and myself. Now, some people, you know, may have other distractions that they deal with, you know, but I think these right here and the times that we living in, I think these are the most prevalent ones, you know, that we see every day, that we deal with on a daily basis. And I think it's just important to deal with it because you can put anything in there. Anything that you're dealing with in life, you can insert it in there and take out entertainment. You could probably take out smartphones. You could take out people. But one thing that I will hold on to is myself, because I think a lot of times we are the biggest distraction. You know, we decide, you know, to indulge in entertainment. We decide to pick up that smartphone. We decide to let people in our lives, you know. So it's always going to be a self-examination on that. So entertainment, smartphones, myself. Let's stay focused. All right. And as we move on to the next slide, something I like to do is I like to set the foundation with the word of the Most High. Right. And here we find in Proverbs 4, you know, a good word that's being spoken to us. And this is coming from Shalomo, also known as Solomon. And verse 25 say, let your eye look forward and your eyelids look straight before you. So when I'm looking at the first part of the verse, when it says, let your eyes look forward, it's trying to tell us something here. It's about the importance of focusing and direction, especially towards your walk, you know, with the Father. You know, whatever Any goal that you have in your life, anything that you want to achieve in your life, it's always going to take commitment, dedication, and focus. So in the context of the scripture, is like looking forward is trying to tell us to commit ourselves to Yah's way and do our best by avoiding distraction, because those distractions can lead us on the wrong path. You know, some of the most successful people tell you in life that they had to put down the things that hindered them from possibly making it to where they are now. And we measure success differently. However, success look for you. So then it says your eyelids look straight before you. So it's instructing us to fix our gaze straight ahead without any wavering, because we have to be determined and understand what the purpose is of what we're trying to accomplish, right? Verse 26 says, consider the path of your feet, and all your ways are established. So spiritually, it's telling us to remove distractions that can lead that can lead me away, that can lead me astray from what I'm trying to accomplish in life, And it's really talking about the spiritual aspect of it. And it says, do not turn to the right or the left, turn your feet away from evil. And when we are distracted, that's what can happen. Anything could come in our lives where we find ourselves not going away from what we were trying to do, So we have to watch what we say. We got to watch what we look at. We got to watch what we smell. We got to watch what we hear, what we touch. We have to protect our gates, because that's how we become distracted, And I just want to touch on the first topic here in this next slide. And it is referring to entertainment. So I want to ask these three questions, or two questions that I have here. It says, am I overwhelmed or distracted? I think that's very important for us to consider, because if we can easily say, I had too much to do, but really I was distracted, right? Because I've done that before. Second question is, how do I determine between the two? How do I determine between being overwhelmed or being distracted? So feeling overwhelmed is usually means you have just too much on your plate, and it's kind of hard to manage all the tasks and the emotions and all those things you're facing. And it's basically like being buried under a lot of responsibility. But on the other hand, being distracted, it means your attention is diverted from what you were supposed to do or what you was trying to do. And it's usually because you have some external thing going on, like some external stimuli. You can be overstimulated. But a lot of times, where I know for myself, it's like I put myself in that category. I put myself in that situation where I'm overwhelmed. I'm distracted because I chose to pick up certain things. I chose to look at this. I chose to listen to this. It was my choice, So while being overwhelmed is about having too much to handle, being distracted is about losing focus. So, and now we can move on to our first category here, which is entertainment. So the question is, how much entertainment do I consume? Does it get in the way of me achieving my goals? So entertainment can sometimes distract us from our goals. And what it does is taking up time and attention that can be spent elsewhere, on more productive things. But I will say this, I'm not going against entertainment, because entertainment, it plays a role in our life. It helps us to relax. It helps us to recharge, which can ultimately support, our overall productive and our well-being at times, right? So I'm not going against entertainment saying we just should put it all down. Not doing that. But what I'm saying is it should be a balance. Like balancing entertainment with our responsibilities is very key to achieving our goals. And it's part of enjoying life. You can do that. But not all entertainment is equal. Not all entertainment is equal, because you have some entertainment where it can be used for productivity. You know, not every time you see someone watching TV, that doesn't mean that they are doing something unproductive. It could be something that they watching that's educational. It could be something that can help them with something that they're trying to achieve. Maybe they have a goal in life, you know, and that's even with phones. Just because you see someone on the phone doesn't mean that they're engaging in something unproductive, you know. So I know what I'm going to talk about next is like they consider reading a book as entertainment, right? So what book are you reading? You know, that's the determining factor. Is what you're reading, is it productive or if it's entertainment? And how much of it do you allow to consume in your life? You know, so that's what I'm trying to get to here, because I'm not saying we shouldn't be entertained or anything like that. You know, there's a lot of people think we just should put it down, but it's here. And I think that we can be responsible users of entertainment, you know. And so what I did was I went and I did kind of like a little study, a mini study, and I wanted to see, where do we spend our money in this slide that you see right here. Where do we spend our money? Where do the average person in the United States spend their money? And this is a survey that was done, and I looked up other surveys, and you will see that if you was to do some research on this, you will see other surveys giving a different number, right? And for this one caught my eye because it seemed like they went more in depth and they touched on a lot of other things than the other surveys did, right? So I just don't want us to take this one survey and try to look at it, you know, like this is applying straight to me. No, you can glean whatever you can from this, you know. So I was looking at this, and I found it interesting at the digital entertainment. And as you can see on this list, you know, you have television, movie streaming, cable, movies, theaters, and music. See right there, it says reading for entertainment, news media. And this is how much from the that it says that the American, from 2,200 people that they surveyed, the American spends $263.10 a month on entertainment. You know, someone once told me, show me your bank account, I can show you who you serve, right? And looking at this, if someone is spending this much money on digital entertainment, this can possibly be a distraction. Now, can I spend this much on digital entertainment and still get things done and still achieve my goals? Of course. But if you find yourself not being able to achieve your goals, if you find yourself not being able to move up to a different level in life, you know, if you find yourself in a position where, you know, this type of stuff is drawing you away from the Father, then I think it's something to consider. Like, am I spending this much money a month on entertainment alone? Now, that's just digital entertainment. Then you go down to in-person entertainment. So you have social outings, which I know is something that I love to do. You know, me and my wife, we love to go out, you know. And then you have recreational activities, live entertainment. And the people that were surveyed in this survey here, it says they spent $277 monthly. So was a total of $6,488 a year. You know, that's a lot of money to be spending in 1 year just on entertainment. And so, but with this information that I'm providing, I just want to let you know that it was cut off, right? So there's another category for this, and that category is annual special occasions. And we know what those things are: graduations, anniversary, things like that. It says that the average person in America spend $1,836 on annual occasions. So when you add it all up, that's $8,324 just on entertainment alone. So, like I said earlier, can I do this and still be productive? Yes, you can. That can happen. You can still be able to enjoy entertainment, but it's more about how much of it is it taken away from me and my family, me and my friends, me and my, all my loved ones. How much of it is it getting in the way of me reading my scriptures, me doing the necessary studyings I need to do? How much of it is this doing in my life? Do I need to cut back? Is this really hindering my walk? Is this hindering my marriage? Is this hindering my relationship with my children? What about my goals and all the things I want to do in life? Is this getting in the way? And if I was to look at this for myself, I'm talking about myself here. If I was to look at this, I'd be like, I need to cut some of this stuff out because it's getting in the way of what I'm trying to accomplish in life. Right. And we have to understand that this right here is paid entertainment. Now you have free entertainment out there as well, and which would be the next slide. We will get into smartphones. Now, obviously, you got to pay for your phone, and but smartphones can impact our ability to basically achieve our daily tasks, and it can also get in the way of our long-term goals. So it's like, did I achieve what I wanted this week or this month? What came up, whether it's at work, whether it was in an assembly, whether it was at home, I didn't get it done. Why I didn't get it done? Well, maybe because I was on my smartphone, right? So how much screen time do I consume in a day? So some phones come with a way for you to measure how much time you're spending on your phone. I remember for me, I used to look, I had downloaded the app because I knew it was a problem. And I downloaded this app, and the app showed me how much screen time I had. And I remember it was showing that I was spending over 10 hours on my phone. And I wasn't doing anything productive. So I knew I had a problem. I knew that I needed to get rid of it, you know. So then the next question is, do I have a hard time putting my phone down? Do I find it hard to put my phone down? And the way that they design these things is designed for you to keep scrolling. It's designed for you to keep at it, you know. And so you have a few things that you can do in life to try to put this down. And we're going to try to get to that later, right? So the next thing is, can I go days without it? Not include normal communication because we want to communicate with people. Can I go days without it? And if the answer is no, I know for me, I knew I had a problem. I couldn't go days without it. I recently just had to go days without it because I had to get it fixed. And when I tell you that I felt a lot better without my phone, I am so serious. I felt better without it, you know, because it was a distraction. But at the same time, there was a point where I'm putting in 10 hours. I'm looking at YouTube for hours and, social media for hours, but I was able to overcome that. I was able to put that stuff down and, still get on those social media apps and do all those things that I like to do. But when I went and looked at my app to see how much time I was spending on it, it wasn't in the hours anymore. It was in the minutes, you know. So then so when we talk about how it can get in the way of our daily tasks and our long-term goals, there's a few things that we can discuss with it. So like, for instance, the number one thing that the smartphone is going to do is distract you, right? So you got notifications, social media, and apps. What they can do is they easily pull you in and they take your attention away from your task. Today I was at work and we getting ready for the new school year, and a telemarketer called. I hit end on it, and for some reason I went straight to my notification to check my notification. And within like 10 seconds, I realized, like, this is a problem. Let me put it down so I can get back to work, And then it also would get in the way of time management. Do we manage our time correctly? Does smartphones get in the way of us managing our time? Spending excess time on smartphones can eat away at the available time for important tasks and personal development, things that we're trying to accomplish in life. Another thing it causes sleep deprivation, right? So overuse, especially before bedtime. Like, how many people look at their phone before they go to bed? I can raise my hand for that. But how much time am I spending on it? What did I look at on my phone before I went to sleep? That's what I need to ask myself, right? And it also gets in the way of your mental clarity. So consistent exposure to information and stimuli can lead to mental fatigue and reduce clarity in decision making. And I know that was something before that I seen in my life. I was always wondering, why do I have all this brain fog? Why can I not focus? Well, I was spending too much time on my phone. But balancing your smartphone use, by setting boundaries and being mindful of the uses can help minimize, these impacts and support achieving your goals. So when we go over, it's a distraction. It gets in the way of your time management. It interrupts your sleep and it causes mental clutter. But these are things, once you identify it, you can be able to take care of it. Because the worst thing you can do, the worst thing that I know that I did was at one point in time, knew that it was a problem, and then I didn't try to address it. No wonder I'm not getting homework done. No wonder I'm not productive at work. No wonder I'm not getting things done around the house because I'm distracted. And maybe I need to put it down just for a second, you know? So in this next slide, I wanted to bring out some more information. Understand this comes from reviews.com, and this information is used just for studying to see where do we stand here in the country that we live in. So it says America's cell phone usage and habits. So you can take a look at that. This was a study done back in 2022 and 2023. So, more than half of Americans, 57%, say they are addicted to their phones. So on average, this was in 2023, people are checking their phones 144 times a day. So now for some of us, we may need our phones for work, right? And that's understandable because I know I'm at work. I try to my best to stay off my phone, but I'm also always getting emails, you know, and you have others who rely solely on a phone for the things that they need to do on their job. And that's one thing. But I'm talking about when we're picking up our phone and we're doing things like what's it saying on here, you know, are we using it while we're driving? I had something that happened to me the other day, actually like a month ago. And I was looking at my phone and I didn't look up yet. I was looking at my phone and I saw a car come out the corner of my eye, and the car actually came into my lane. And I had to swerve and get out the way. And I praise the Most High that I was able to see that car. But at that moment, I'm like, I need to be focused on the world. I need to leave this phone alone. you know. So I come up with something, whereas in I'm not touching my phone. What do I need to touch it for? I'm make sure everything I have on there is right. What am I about to do? Wherever I'm going, what do I need my phone for? I'm going to listen to scriptures. I'm going to listen to some music, whatever it is. Am I going to put a lesson on and listen to where I'm going to go? And I'm going to leave it alone, because that was actually kind of scary. My children was in the car. All my children was in the car, and they couldn't believe what happened. you know, and even if that car would have swerved into the lane and hit me, it still could have been my fault. I would have blamed myself if that car would have hit me, even though they came into my lane, because I should have been focusing on the road. I shouldn't have been looking at my phone, right? So according to the study, it says many respondents say they have their phones with them at all times. They sleep with their phones. That's 60% of people. Check them within the first 10 minutes of waking up. That's 89%. And use them on the toilet. 75%. When a notification comes in, 3/4, which is 75% of the people that were surveyed, respond across generations, look at it within 5 minutes. And so if a notification come on the phone, I need to see what's being said. I need to look at it. I need to make sure that whatever my phone is telling me, I need to go look. I need to see what it is because it's telling me something. I need to hear what it's telling me, is what I get from this survey, right? And a lot of us are guilty of, including myself. I can be guilty of this as well. So this information that was given to me is like, can improve the way that I'm operating in life to make sure that I'm not distracted, you know, because I was at work today. I was thinking about that. I was at work. I was working on something. My phone vibrated. I get to it later. Just let me take care of this one little thing real quick. I get to that later, and a lot of times it's emails. So, but it says right here, most people say they are uneasy leaving their phone at home. That's 75%. And a majority have never gone longer than 24 hours without it. That's 55%. Now, if you need your phone for work, that's understandable. But can I go 24 hours without my phone? Can I go 24 hours without social media? That's the question I asked myself. And, like I said, this was something that I was able to overcome. I can go that long, you know. And then this last part said, I couldn't believe this. It says, if the battery level dips below 20%, a sense of panic or anxiety sets in. 47% of people say that. That to me sounds like an addiction, right? But we're going to overcome this, Mr. Picard. We're going to get over this, right? If anyone is dealing with these type of things, some people say, I'm not dealing with it. That's understandable, but do you know someone else who is dealing with it? Maybe you can provide them this information, because the way that the phones have taken over our life is kind of it's kind of amazing to see how it has just come in our lives, and it's as if we can't go without it without at all. We can't go without it at all. And I'm gonna share something. Our shepherd, told us, doing Torah study, he was like, hey, no cell phones during Torah study. And we just start complaining and, oh no, we need it for this and we need it for that. And it's just like, do we really need it though? Do we really have to have our phones doing Torah study? Now, I want to say this. Just like a hammer can be used to build something, it can also be used for something vicious. The hammer is a tool. Are we using our phone as a positive tool in our life? Some of us have gotten to use the phone. We learning languages. We actually getting into the Hebrew. We looking up certain things dealing with the scriptures because it is a tool. We have so much. The things where we used to have to buy encyclopedias. We had to have whole libraries, but now it's on our phone. Are we using it for those things? How much are we using it within a week for positive, productive things? Are we using it to learn a skill? Are we using it to, refine whatever talent that we have? Are we using it for that? Are we using it for the most positive things possible? Because it can be. But the thing is just we have to set a balance. We have to balance out the use of our cell phones and the fact that it can get in the way of being a distraction to us. And we're going to go ahead and go on to the next slide. All right. So, scriptures to consider. So, Proverbs 25:16 says, have you found honey? Eat only as much as you need it. least you be satisfied with it and vomit. So what this verse is trying to teach us is we should value moderations, right? We can do things in moderations. We can get into entertainment and enjoy it, but we can do it in moderations, right? We can use our smartphones. We can do it in moderations. So if you want to get on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all those things, it can be done in moderations. Because like it's saying, just as too much honey can make someone sick, overindulging in other areas of our life can lead to negative consequences as well. So as believers of Yah, we are called to exercise self-control and discernment in the choices that we make. So it's very important that we understand the distractions that are out there that can get in our way when it comes to serving Yah and when it comes to trying to achieve goals in our life. If you're going to school, it'd be kind of hard to sit on your phone all day and then think that you're finna pass a test, because some of us would get into that thing like, I'm just gonna pray that the Father's gonna help me with this, and you ain't even picked up a book. You ain't read nothing. You ain't went over your notes. You ain't done none of that because you were distracted. Now, understand this, sometimes laziness can get in the way as well. So sometimes it ain't distraction, it's laziness, and that thing can creep in, right? So we want to make sure that whatever we're doing it in moderations, because too much of something is not a good thing, right? Now, this is in 1 Corinthians 9:24. Do you know that those who run in a race indeed all run, but one receives the prize, one in such a way as to obtain it? Now, this is what I came for verse 25. And everyone who competes controls himself in every way. So that's what it's about. It's about self-control. Now, they do it to receive a corruptible crown, but we do it to an incorruptible crown. So we're striving for something better after this life, right? And in order to do that, we have to have control over ourselves. And that's what's going to lead me to the next slide. Myself. A lot of times when I find myself doing things that I shouldn't be doing, all the time, really, I have to look at myself, right? So what did Haggai say right here? He says, and now thus said Yahweh of hosts, consider your ways. So consider your ways. And we have to do this carefully, right? So this call, is a reflection on, the word consider here is telling us basically setting your heart upon something, and you need to evaluate yourself deeply. You got to deeply evaluate yourself. So consider your ways. Now we know that he's talking about during the time, when Israel came back from captivity. And Israel was so focused on their own homes. They were so focused on their own things they wanted to do that they forgot about the house of the Father. They was focused on rebuilding their own homes and was just completely neglecting the temple of the Most High. So this raises is a call to prioritize, spiritual responsibility and all the responsibilities that we have in our life. We have our home, we have our careers, our jobs. We have, some of us have children. We have finances. We have all those things. We have so many things in this world that we need to focus on. If we find ourselves distracted, we will get off. We will go down a path that we didn't mean to go down. It was never intended to go down that path. But I smelled something. I saw something. I heard something. I touched something. I said something. And it led me that way. Right? Proverbs 12 says in 24, the hand of the hard worker rules, but the lazy is put to compulsory labor. And that's what I said earlier. Am I lazy? Is that possibly getting in my way? Because if I'm lazy, most likely I'm just going to go sit here and get on my phone and I'm in school and I got a 5-page paper that need to be written, but I'm about to go sit on my phone. I'm about to turn on Netflix or something. You know, those things can be such a distraction to us. So when I'm reading that, when it says the hand of the hard worker rules, it's talking about the hand of the diligent will rule. This phrase is really telling us how, we should, the value of diligence and hard works, how it pays off. We see that all throughout the Proverbs. It talks about the hard work, and today we're trying to bring this ancient concept up into our time. Diligence that was often, associated with leadership and prosperity. You have to work for what you wanted. And still today, we have to do that. And if we're not working, we're not being diligent, we're not prospering, then it's a good chance that we're distracted by the things that are going on around us. You know, so like when it's talking about that, the hand is suggesting an active engagement and an effort to what I'm doing. So it's Ecclesiastes 9 and 10. All that your hand finds to do it with your might. For there is no work or planning or knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you are going. So there is no work or planning or wisdom in the grave. So this part of the verse is highlighting, all the earthly activities and stuff that we're pursuing. You can't do that once you're no longer here. So why not take the time to put a full effort into what we're doing here on this earth while we're here? The Father is the one that woke us up this morning. He's the one that put breath in our lungs and it's flowing through our nostrils right now, right? So why not take that time to be diligent in the things of the Father and be diligent in whatever we put our hand to? So it's just very, very important for us to like really consider this. So I think when I first read this verse, I just remember it was kind of like a fear fell on me in a way. I can't escape the fact that death in our life is imminent unless the King returns. And so why not do the best that I can when it comes to serving the Father, when it comes to being a good husband, when it comes to being a good father, when it comes to being a good student, when it comes to being a good brother or sister, when it comes to being in the body of the Messiah, can I really take the time and effort to put in, diligent work, for the kingdom? What about at work? Can I really focus on and be the best of myself that I can be at work, and block out all the things that are outside of my life that don't add up to anything? Can I do that? Again, if I'm in school, what if I'm going to college? Can I put in effort? Because I remember when I was in school, I was telling my father, I'm struggling. I'm struggling, and he encouraged me. And I was really focusing on my GPA, and he was like, are you there? Someone told me, like, are you there to learn, or are you there to get a grade? So I had to really think about that, because if you dare to learn, I think that you will put your more effort into what you're doing. But if you dare to get a grade, it's like you just going, whatever it is that you end up with. If I end up with a C, I end up with a C. And it kind of got that way for me. I'm just like, oh man, I need to pass this class. But at the same time, I knew I was distracted, because remember, I was doing 10 plus hours on my phone. You know, so whatever you put your hand to, whatever effort you put it into it, it's going to show. If I'm putting all my effort into it, it's going to show. Remember, when you read the scriptures and you sit back and you see how the Father and how he used the metaphor for us as mankind as trees, right? You have trees that can bring forth rotten fruit. You have trees that can bring forth good fruit. We are called to bring forth good fruit, right? Because if we bring forth bad fruit, then it's time for us to get cut down. If we on the side where we bring it towards good fruit, understand this. It's important to understand that we still going to be pruned as a good tree, right? And go on to the next slide. And I really wanted to continue this from Ecclesiastes 9 and 10 to conclude everything that we talked about here. So what's next? What should I do next, right? So examine the information and consider what applies to you, because maybe this stuff don't apply to you. You may have some other things in your life that's distracting, but I just hope that you can glean something from it, that it can possibly help you, because it's helped me. It's helping me, you know. And one thing we have to do is be honest with ourselves. Being honest with ourselves will make life so much easier when it comes to, really getting to the point where I say that this is my goal. This is what I want to do. Is it realistic? Yes. Am I going to put full effort into it? That's the question I ask myself. Am I going to put full effort into this? That's something to consider. Do not let your current struggles dictate your tomorrow, because whatever you're going through right now, just understand someone else can possibly be going through it. And this is just a stumbling block in your life, and you can get over it. So many people have been able to get over this, this addiction. What the survey has said, it's an addiction. And seek assistance. Who in your life can you talk to about it? I know I talked to my wife about it, years ago, and I was just like, I'm spending so much time on this phone. I'm missing out on my children growing up. I'm missing out on their childhood, because I'm spending so much time on my phone. And I remember, my oldest daughter, she'd get on me. She's like, "You always on your phone?" And I'm like, "No." But it took me a while to get to the point for not to identify the problem, but to actually take care of it. And that's not to say that you will find yourself in a spot where you're on your phone and you're doing things and these things are vain. But once you realize it, let me put it down for a second. Let me turn that TV off. I don't need to go out tonight. I actually have a 10 o'clock deadline that I need to meet. I don't need to go attend, this get together over here. I have something I have to take care of. I have a goal that I'm trying to achieve. So our decision making plays a huge factor in it, right? And before I close it out, so I'm going to say this. There's an urgency to action on this, right? And that's what it seems like we were getting from the last scripture that we read from Ecclesiastes 9 and 10, right? So our opportunities that we have here on this earth are limited. So we need to seize those moments and engage in our daily tasks with dedication. We have to value diligence. The Father honors that. He honors hard work. Our efforts should reflect our commitment to Him, knowing that whatever we do here on this earth it's a form of worship. So we really have to take that into consideration. And so then we have the importance of, intentional living, right? We are encouraged to live a life that's intentional for the Father. We have to make the most out of the things that He has given us, whether it's resources, whether it's talents, our gifts. We have to make the most of those things. So if we're going to spend time on more of what the things that he gave us as far as talents and gifts and all the opportunities he has given us in our life, spend time focusing on all things, it would be hard for us to get distracted. You know, also, as servants of the Father, we are called to be excellent. We are called to live an excellent life, right? Because people are watching us. So whatever we do, we should do it with excellency. Because remember, we are a reflection of the Most High's character. And everything that we do, our work, our interactions, the things that we say, the things that we do, we are a representation of the Father. So, in order for us to do that, we have to minimize distractions. Thank you for your time.